Gooby. You're now listening to Buddy Time. On today's episode, we're exploring the power of belief and values in finding your true authentic self with a guest speaker, me, Emmika Lounporn. Ready to turbocharge your day with us? Let's begin our voyage!
Hello everybody, welcome back to Buddy Time. Today we have another special friend with us. Hello Emmie, what's up?
Hi, my name is Emmie. I'm from Bangkok. I am designer, tailor, seamstress, figure skater, former figure skating coach, scuba diver, tarot reader, and also a cat mom.
That was a long introduction in terms of how many talents you have.
I have several hobbies. I have way too many hobbies, I would say, for myself.
I think it's quite normal for everyone to enjoy several hobbies. I've only known you for how many years now? Around 3 years. And definitely we were not that close in the beginning. To me, at first, I thought that, Emmie is just a really intelligent girl. I think she's intelligent in terms of all the knowledge and the academic stuff. I wouldn't think that you are quite active in terms of other sports. Like you mentioned, you would go for scuba diving and you're also a figure skater right now. This is something that I only found out later on. Like you only told us after a year or so. Yeah, so to me at first, I didn't relate you with all the sporty stuff, but then you are actually one of those sporty girls. How did that come out from you?
Oh wait, actually, I forgot golf. I also do golf. How it come about? Honestly, it's very natural. I don't know how. Well, I guess by my nature, I would say I'm a very curious person. I don't know if it's curiosity or impatience, because when I want to know something, I immediately look up. For example, I was like this is very random. This one time I was wondering about how this dish is made. It's called paduk fu. It's a dish made from fish. There's a fish in the name, but it's like a very fluffy fried thing, which is like, how is this a fish? So I literally just look up on YouTube and then okay, watch how it's made. And I'm like, oh, so that's how it is. And I feel like when you first mentioned that you think that I'm an intelligent person, I'm like, thank you. But maybe it's only because I know a lot of facts. You know, I'm curious, I look up and I know those facts, right? And then when it comes to sport, honestly, I tried so many sports, but the ones I do right now is the one that sticks. For me, I'm curious of this sport, how do they do it? And so I tried it, and if I don't like it, I stop. But for figure skating, for example, I tried it. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is fun. So it stuck, as well as scuba diving and golf.
Emmie is certainly a lady of many talents in my mind as well. She does a lot of things and are really good at a lot of things. And to me, a lot of this really comes through to how you explained yourself, that you are a person that you have a lot of curiosity into things, and then you go actively search for answers for all these questions that you have in your mind. And with what we're discussing today as well, I feel like it really begins from this. A thought can only be a thought if it's just inside your mind. But what you do is you take it another step forward and you change it into an active motion. And I feel like that's really one of the only ways we can find out whether or not something's good or something's bad for yourself. And just when I was growing up as well, my parents would always be like, try all the food. Like when I was younger, I don't like eating vegetables. And then they're like, try it. And if you don't like it, then sure, you don't have to eat it. And you're right. Like, how would I know if it's good or not good unless I try it? I don't like durian. I've tried it. And that's something that I can say, right? Like after I've tried it, I can say that, hey, I don't like it. And with today's particular topic, we're going to be talking deep into the concept of authenticity and, again, sort of self-growth and finding ourselves. With you, Emmie, you telling us that you have all these things that you're into and you are really good at all these things too. To start off with, do you find if there's any sort of differences in things you do in terms of the people you're with or the things that you do? Because to me, doing something artistic like painting, the people that I'm around that I'm thinking of is really different from sports if I were to go dive or if I were to play golf. So the people within these sort of activities are very different. For you, how do you navigate between these sort of different communities for yourself, and is it different?
Definitely. If you're asking if those people of different groups are different, they are very, very different. I would say I have quite a variety of friend groups. I have the ones from my high school. I have the ones from my bachelor degree. I have the one from my master's school. I have the one from figure skating. I have the ones from my scuba diving. I have the ones from my studio, which I do tailoring and stuff, right? I think like one big difference I could share with you right now is, so I actually did figure skating 10 years ago, right? And figure skating politics. In Bangkok, there are quite a number of ice rinks, right? But then there's only just the one ice rink where all the national team goes to. And it's the only rink that do national team competitions. So 10 years ago, I was in a different rink, right? And then I have like this group of friends who we're athletes, but we're not super serious. So we're not like, okay, we're not applying for national teams. We're not looking out for, coaches who can take you to Olympics. We don't do that. But now 10 years later, I joined this new rink because my old rink closed due to COVID. They kind of like started a new rink. And so I go to this new rink and I meet quite a few new people. And I do meet quite a few of the national teams. And their mindset is definitely very different from casual athlete and serious athlete. You can really feel the difference in terms of their mindset and how they take stress and pressure. And it's almost like these are two different groups of people from the same community.
It is interesting to hear you say that you feel the differences in terms of their mindset. How did you feel at that moment? Because I'm trying to imagine if for me, I feel like, oh, these are the same people. They're from the same community. But the two different groups, they have two very different mindsets. I used to be with the group that has A mindset. Now I am exposed to B mindset. How was that change for you? Was it a comfortable realization?
In terms of like, am I comfortable with it? I am with the group of people that I'm with right now, because if I'm not comfortable with any group of people, I remove myself from them. But the general feeling of this is that I'm actually on the older end of athletes, right? I am 25, and a lot of the athletes that I know right now are in the range from 16 to 20. And the big difference I felt is that I don't feel a very big divide in maturity with them, which kind of explains what serious athletes are like. They're a lot more mature, because if they're not, I don't think they can come this far. It's a very competitive circle, I would say.
Currently, you are giving examples of the two different sets of group, but knowing you as well, I know that you have a lot of hobbies. And I feel like a lot of listeners who are also interested in multiple things and not knowing what they should stick with, they could be interested in understanding sort of like how you yourself balance between these groups of people or groups of hobbies that you're into, or let's say job that you're doing, because you are doing so many things. And I feel like it is really like a trend that's happening in today's world, where a lot of people are now not sticking to just one specific job or one specific interest. Like, people are becoming more and more versatile in the things that they're doing and the expertise that they're into. And I feel like you land really much into this realm of like expertise, because you do a lot of things and you can do so many things. But with all these things as well, the people are so different. Let's just talk about sports then, just using sports as an example. I know that you're a scuba diver and you are also a golfer, but at the same time, you're also a figure skater and a coach. So all these sports are so different, and the people who go into these sports are so different. When you're working, I assume that these people that you meet during your work, because it is fundamental in our lives that we have the need to be in a community when we're working to find the people that we vibe with, right? If you don't feel that way, then even if you're passionate about the job, maybe you'll consider to change or relocate or something like this. So I'm really wonder, like, how do you strike a balance between all these different interests that you have and the differences that come with this?
How I understood Sony's words is because sometimes not everyone have several interests and still be good at it. And because the people that we meet are really, really different, right? For example, the community that I meet here in Miguri Space could be this kind of vibe. And then when I move out of Miguri Space, I go to, let's say, a golf community. They're probably another vibe. So how I'm trying to imagine myself is I might have to switch my mindset or my role a bit. Or another really obvious example for myself is whenever I'm with friends or whenever I am working in a setting that is more relaxed and casual, my vibe would be friendlier. But when I have to go to, let's say, networking events, conferences where there are more business people related, I will have to switch my role to be more like a business mindset person. But that is not to say that I am not being myself, because that I will still consider I am being myself. It's just I have different part in me that I feel like I can excel. So I can be really friendly and casual and still working productively in Miguri Space. But that doesn't mean I can't go out to socialize in a very business way, with meeting with more seniors people, meeting with some really industry expert people. And probably my kind of funness, I would say, would interest the more serious type people too. So that's how I consider, if I have different interests or if I'm in different setting, switching the role or switching how I interact with people doesn't change who I am. I still feel like I am being myself. I think that is more like a part of how I would consider authenticity and being genuine. So with your example, you definitely have several communities like you mentioned. How do you see that as an authentic thing for you? Like,
I get what you're saying. I definitely adapt a lot, as in the way that I am with you right now might be different with the way that I am with a different group of friends. But then that doesn't take away the authenticity that I am. It's just the mannerism, I guess. I am the youngest daughter out of, let me count. I have 4 older sisters. I am the youngest sister. I got into university at 17 and I got to my first job at 20. And in my bachelor, I was the youngest. At my work, I was the youngest. And at master degrees, I was the youngest. But now, going back to figure skating, I meet a bunch of new athletes and they're like 16, 17, 18. Though they're mature, I'm now has to be the bigger sister. I go in, I didn't know the way that I would, adapt. It's almost like I'm a chameleon. I just changed naturally. Not really the way I am per se, but like the way I talk or how I would give advice. I'm a bit different. Like, I'm a bigger sister. I'm someone who's like, if they do something that might not be super ethical or correct, I would tell them, but I wouldn't do it with a friend of my age because I feel like it's not really my position. The same with the friends from my university. I have 2 groups of friends. I have one friend from my major. I do media, right? And so I'm more casual with that one. And I have another group, which is like from the science major. I am more polite with them because they don't swear. So I don't swear in the circle because I feel like that's weird. And it's also good for me. Like, if you don't swear, that's nice. You look good. But then, like, I'm with my major friends, right? My media friends, there are a lot of guys. So sometimes I would like swear. I'd be like, yo, what the heck? And all that stuff. So I think like the way that I present myself might be a bit different, but the values inside of me or the way I would say something's right or wrong, or how I tell them about myself wouldn't change at all.
It's nice that you brought up the term value. I really want to touch upon this and see, like, for you, what are your values that you personally stick to, and how do you maintain these values within all the different communities that you meet?
For me, I am known in every single group, even though I act differently sometimes, even though my mannerism will be different in each group. I am known in every group that I'm very honest. That could be a good or a bad thing at the same time. My value would be truthfulness and authenticity, basically. For me, I have an ick for people that lie, and I don't like lying myself. I am very bad at lying, even if it's for a board game. I hate lying for a board game. I'm very bad at it too. The way I maintain it is I kind of change the way I deliver my truth. For example, for the people that I'm not very close with, if I disagree with them, I wouldn't say anything because it could be rude. But for the people that I'm closer, but not that close, I might beat around the bush a little bit, but still get my message delivered of what I feel if they ask for opinion. And for the people I'm close with, I would be really truthful with them, like, oh, what you're doing, it's not right. I don't think this is a very nice thing for you to do, but you do you. But for people who I'm not very close with, I might say, oh, maybe this is not the best thing you could do. Do you want to try different options?
So I'm trying to connect the dots here because you did mention about you using the term like beating around the bush. I mean, that's just like, for a lack of a better term, I'm supposing as well. So I totally understand that because I do that too. I have to sometimes adapt myself for the different events that we host because the audience that we host sometimes are very different. So I have to adapt myself in accordance to the sort of thematics or the events that we host, basically. I really understand that we have to adapt, but then again, I feel like this is a really interesting discussion that we can bring to the board because in our everyday life, it is actually really looked down upon when we are sort of like this person, some people might call like a two-headed bird, like in Thai, like nok song hua. Like you adapt yourself and you change yourself in order to fit that particular group of people. But to me, I'm trying to connect the dots between what we're discussing today, which is authenticity. How do you connect these dots in your own way? Because to me, it is a really interesting point to think about because sometimes you need to adapt yourself to fit a certain group, but other people might view it as you being inauthentic to yourself because you're adapting yourself to a group of people that believe or do things differently from another group that you're also a part of. So how do you two feel about this particular topic?
First of all, I really like, Emmie, you mentioned a word about being like a chameleon because chameleon changes their color according to the environment, right? To me, how I see being authentic while still being you in different environment is actually just like a chameleon. The chameleon will adapt to the environment. It changes the color, the exterior, but in the end, it's still a chameleon. The chameleon didn't change who he or she is. So I would reword it in a way that is, as long as I am being truthful, like you said, your values, as long as I'm being truthful, I'm still being genuine in the way that I interact with people. It doesn't change my values too. I can be here in a really friendly way, hanging out with this group of friends. I can be saying, bad words in a conversation here, but it doesn't change my value for personality. If I go to a business setting, I will still interact and share my thoughts with them in a very genuine way. And that doesn't make me fake because in my opinion, what makes a person fake is when I am telling things that is not true. And when I'm trying to make a new scenario that create a different personality or different image. So I believe that most of the friends who know me, even though they're from different country or different community, whenever they describe me, they will have some words that will be the same, even though these friends, they never met each other, but they will still use the same word to describe me. And those are an explanation of me being authentic, even though I'm jumping from different communities, right?
That's true. That is actually pretty much like my explanation to Sony's question. I would say that what changed the most is probably just the mannerism, the words I use probably, or more of like doing what is appropriate. For example, the way I'm with you would be different from the way with a friend's parents or something like that, if you know what I mean. At the same time, the way I deliver my messages or the way I talk could be different, but the core values of what I'm presenting is still the same. For example, if I'm with you, I would still say cheating is bad. If I'm with my college friend, I would still say that cheating is bad. Whichever place that I go to, whichever circle that I go to, I will not be cheating.
What I'm hearing from both of you is that to be authentic, we have to first understand what our values are and sticking to these values. Then my next question that comes up in my mind would be for the two of you, how do you find out what your values are?
Man, Sony, today you only ask really difficult questions. I don't know for you, Emmie, and I don't know for you, Sony. Maybe you can also think for that answer too, which I will ask you back. But for me, how I discover my value, I probably would have to really do a deep reflection. But one thing I'm sure that we all experience is the journey of self-discovery and self-growth. Without any of these, we wouldn't know what our value is. By me being able to answer what my value is also me telling everyone that I know myself. If I don't know myself, if any of y'all don't understand yourself, I don't think you're able to really answer this question, because this question is really so deep that only if we know who we are, then we can answer it. And I am really proud of myself that I can say that I really know who I am. I know what I want. So that's why I know what my value is. Hence why I know which friend to be with, what kind of community I would like to create and put myself into. I want a really supportive, loving friend group community. That's why I am always with a group of people who are positive. Well, not always positive, but what I mean by they're all having this growth mindset and not a fixed mindset people. And I would feel a lot of uplifting energy with people around me. These are all my values. I want to be, because how I treat people is also being genuine. And because I also believe in energies, attracting the people who are in the same frequency and same energy as me. So I need to really know myself first in order to know what I want to attract.
Sony woke up and chose violence today. All the questions. For me, I don't think I ever had anyone in my life telling me that lying is bad. It's probably out there somewhere, like in the messages, in like, you know, the propaganda or like in children's book. But I don't really remember like my mom telling me you should not lie or anything. It could be the way that I was raised when I was younger, but I couldn't remember those times. But I guess a lot of my values come through personal experiences. When I was really young, I think it was just like among friends. I was in like the first grade, the second grade. My friend lied to me about something and I was really sad. I think it was like my friend broke a pencil. And then I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why did you say that it was lost? Like, you could have just tell me. I would be okay with it. And the way that that lie comes across, it made me think of like, why does that person think that I will be angry at them for breaking my pencil? Because we are friends. Like, are we not friends? Why do you not think that I will forgive you. And that kind of hurted me. And so if I just think to myself that like, I would never do that to anyone because I wouldn't want to inflict that kind of pain to anyone around me, or at least to anyone that I care, but also anyone in general. So my personal experience know what those actions could affect other people. So I wouldn't want to do it to other people.
Do you want to answer your own question, Sony?
Yes. I don't know what's come over me today with all these questionings, but yeah, it really are like legit questions that come up during our conversation and discussion today, and it's making me think a lot as well in the moment for all the questions that I asked. For me, I really agree, and I also vibe with what both of you say. And it really is, for me, I would say that value is like lessons for me. Sort of like your values can be one thing, and it can change and grow over a certain amount of time as well. So your value, let's say like right now, currently, personally, I'm in the part of my life where I really enjoy giving for me. So an example I'm about to give is like we had an intern a while back, and the intern happens to be practicing tarot reading. And they sort of like they were like, Sonia, would you like to do a general tarot read with me? And they can practice tarot reading. And then I was like, sure, let's do it. And then they sort of like did the readings. And then when they did the general reading, they said to me, you know, you are a person where you get more if you give more. And I'm not saying that this is the sort of thing that I'm not doing already, but I'm saying that was a moment in my life, like what I'm trying to say is like value is like a lesson. So my value was I've already had this quality within me, I would say, but then because of that experience and that lesson, that particular time, it made me think about this particular incident again. Oh, maybe I should become a person who can give a lot more. So from then on, I decided that I want to do as much as possible for everybody around me. And I've been giving a lot, like creatively, and I've been giving a lot, like in terms of my time, money, tears, and sweat. Basically everything. I put everything into my life and become a person that I end up being like a giver. And this is sort of like a value currently that I am really sort of like stuck onto and believe into, which is I believe that my value is I want to be able to be a person to spread joy and spread positivity onto all the things that I do in any small or big way possible. And this is the value that I want the people around me to have. I want people around me, not that I need them to be this way, but just as Sin mentioned, the concept of growth mindset, I want the people who are around me are people who are willing to accept these sort of changes and people who are willing to be open-hearted and open-minded enough to think about the changes and the things that are happening around them and not be sort of like an arrogant and stuck up to their own beliefs. Because with that too, I want to say that value also, there's a negative parts of value where we end up believing too much in our values and it could become arrogance, it could become ignorance, and that's something that I try to practice not to be. So just to recap very quickly, value to me is like, it changes. It's like a lesson. It's like a life lesson that changes. And currently, I'm in the part of my life where my value is about giving and my value is about creation. And I want to create and give and create this positivity world where people can live in together. And that's where, and I wish that the people who are in it and sharing this moment with me are also holding the similar values of sharing this positivity and sharing this growth together.
Sometimes value, for those who might still be questioning themselves, what are my value? Because for you, what I heard from you is our intern sort of like used tarot to remind you about this could be your value. So I would say one of the most, popular tools right now we use is tarot reading. So for Sony, tarot card was something that reminded him about his value. But tarot card is something really interesting that we can really dive into later on. Before we get into that, for me, I just want to also share a little about how we can really discover or figure out about what our true value is, which is also something that Emmie touched upon. It's like a life lesson. Sony mentioned about that too. It's really like a life lesson. We experience so many things, and if we're able to, pause and reflect on those life lessons and to think for ourselves that is this something that we like, or is this something that I would like to put myself into or grow myself into the future with this kind of experience or values or with this kind of friend group, then I think that's a good way for us to reflect whether this is a value that you would like to develop or not. If you really don't know what to do, maybe we can, look for Emmie the seer and use the tarot card to, remind us where should we go.
For me, it's like a bit of a cycle. It's a repeating cycle, actually. Whenever I meet new people and I am truly authentic, I am truly myself, and I have my value, it kind of filters out the people that have the same values or the people that I feel I belong with them. And if I don't, it's fine. It's really okay if you don't vibe with certain people or if you don't fit in with the certain group. You just, go find new people. Why not? And through meeting people, I learned different values that different people have. We are so very unique. We all came from a variety of different backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, the way we raise. Like a lot of us are third culture, so we have like a mix and a blend of culture, and those culture have different values, right? And sometimes values shown through the way that people are being themselves. So like if you're being yourself, I can see your values and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. What is it about? But like I go look for it myself, and sometimes values is not really, sometimes it doesn't have a word. It's just the way that people are. And I feel like, then well, that's interesting. Then I get to find out more and different values, and also being authentic and standing up to your values, really find the right people for you. For me, I also have my tarot reading community. I have my Buddhist community. I have my Mootaelu community with all the crystals and all the prayings.
Before we get into the Mootaelu thing, maybe we want to explain a little bit what Mootaelu means for our listeners.
I don't even know if Mootaelu has a meaning because I looked up and wondering what language it's from. It's just a word that means the people who believe in spirituality or believes in praying and making merits. It also includes changing of phone numbers. Having like certain numbers mean certain things, and also changing your names. It's also believed that people born in so or so days of the week should not have so letters in their names. So Mootaelu is woo-woo magic. But what's very interesting is I would say Mootaelu is a Thai religion. Religion, you have Christianity, you have Buddhism, you have Hindu. But Thailand, with the Mootaelu community, we have Thai religion, which means we're Buddhists. We go to temple, we pray to monks, but we also pray to Hindu gods. And we also do crystal stuff. We read tarot, even though we have our own Thai tarot cards, but we read American tarots anyways.
That you've listed, are these the things that you would say in any way helped with your journeys of finding your values or finding your community? How is this related to authenticity in any way?
It's actually helped me find the right people. I remember this one time, one of my friends, or like me with my friend, we were talking about this experience that we went through with spirituality with a non-believer. And then that non-believer sort of like almost like find it laughable, which is kind of like, oh, that's a bit rude. But at the same time, I think to myself that I will not give up this belief. I will not give up this value just because one person found it laughable. And for me, I am glad that I stick to my values, which is like, spirituality, because later down the line, after that incident, I found a group of people with similar interest. Like one of the days I was at my sewing school, and then I wore my crystal bracelet. I was wearing my amulets. And then at one day, my teacher saw that I had my crystals and my amulets, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to go pray upstairs?" So there she has like a shrine, and I think it was Chinese New Year last year, and she would Wai Jiao. So like a ceremony from Chinese Buddhism. And so she invited me, and then later on she would invite me to like, "Oh, do you want to go to the temple this weekend?" Or, "Oh, my best friend is actually also a tarot reader. Do you want to go?" Or like, "Oh, do you want to go to this crystal shop later on?" And now we have like more and more people in the group. So that's what I mean by I'm glad that I stick to my value, because I found these people and we have like common interests.
One thing that while listening to Emmie share your story made me reflect, because I got into my spiritual journey around over a year, almost 2 years now. And all I can say is I am even more into it. But there was definitely a period that I felt like, should I expose myself to the public world that I am actually a very spiritual person? But I wasn't really sure in the beginning. It was also because I was still, trying to confirm myself, doing a self-discovery as well. But then there was definitely this fear that if I tell people that I am a spiritual person now, they would see me with color, like, "You're so religious. Oh, you're superstitious." For me, it made me want to hide myself. But that would only affect me for being who I am about to become, which it is a part of me that I am growing to be, and that I feel comfortable being myself. So as I, continue my journey in this whole spiritual growth, I realized that I should just stick to who I am becoming. I'm not to say that I'm not superstitious at all, because if I'm going to be in the whole spiritual realm, talking about crystals, numerology, astrology, even all the different deities, I cannot say that I'm not superstitious because I am talking about this. But how I'm going to defend myself is that I will also use my rational mind and logical mind to identify what is right to do and what is right to believe. I think superstitious is I only believe in the unexplained stuff. I only believe in the things that normal people are not able to see and not able to feel without using our own logical mind. But in fact, I am trying to balance myself with the help of this, let's call it miracle, superpower, and that doesn't make things worse. And I'm only feeling better, and I'm only getting more miracles and a lot of positive energy nowadays. So I feel like one way to be ourselves, even if we're into the whole Mootaelu thing, is still be brave to stand on your own beliefs.
I'm getting goosebumps from what Sin just said, and it really makes me so happy how our conversation has come up to this, because for me, even though I would say that I'm not a religious person, but how I can apply myself in this community, in this friendship group that we're all in, is that I finally am going to name drop in this episode. I don't really do this, but I really vibe with what Sin said is about, I feel like there is a connection between our values, being authentic to ourselves, and just self-growth and happiness. This is where I'm going to get to, because I feel like one person can only truly start growing once they can showcase themselves and be who they want to be and not suppress the beliefs and the emotions and the thoughts that they have. Even if the step is wrong, it is a step, and that's towards growth. And that's what Sin has brought up and made me think of. One deity that I really worship is Taylor Swift. And she is the goddess that I know, and I take a lot of inspiration in my life from her artistry and her creativity. And in the past, I've always been a Swiftie. People around me know that I'm a Swiftie, but I, for some reason, decided to suppress a lot of that thought, a lot of the love that I have for her work within me. And I don't really talk about it much. Only if like the conversation comes up, then I'll talk about it, because I've always felt like maybe it's just a little bit too annoying for people. Like, people might think like, oh, Sony only talks about this all the time or something like that. But then now, since this whole belief as well, I've been telling myself I should just be whoever I want to be and say whatever I want to say. Freedom of speech, right? And I decided to, wherever I can and wherever I see fit in my life, I start sharing my love for her with everybody around me. And with that, I have found only happiness within myself and growth within myself. And like Sin said as well, more community, more people approach me. I've met more friends in this community now that I've opened myself up. And how can you expect to find people in your life if you don't even showcase who you are? How are they supposed to find you when they don't know what you're into? It only took me this many episodes to name drop, but Taylor Swift, I love you. In many ways, jokes aside, it is really applicable to me in the same realm of what we're discussing, whether that is superstition, whether that is a religion, whether that is just like a love for like someone's work, someone's creation, or a hobby. These things are all very universal to me. So that's why I can really relate when people are like, oh, I go to the temple to feel a certain way or get a certain value, or I do a certain practice like meditation, or I tarot read. I know people who completely disagree and don't believe in these things, and that's okay for them. But it makes me respect people a lot more that I practice this and I view this more universally, because, okay, I admire someone's work, therefore I can also transfer this. And this to me is sort of like a belief, sort of like a value. It's sort of like a religion in itself, if we can say it that way, right?
What I wanted to add on as well is it is also a good thing when you find people who kind of find your values or your interests laughable, because that kind of reveals to you that maybe those people don't deserve to be in your life. There are two ways. First, I feel like those are people who don't respect other people's interests. Just because they're different, they're unique, doesn't mean it should be shamed. Like, how does me and Sin liking, divination, numerology hurting anyone? How does Sony loving Taylor Swift hurting anyone? As long as he's not rubbing Taylor Swift albums on our faces, it's not hurting us. It's fine. Come share it with us. And now we realized that a friend of our friend also really loved Taylor Swift. And now, Sony now has a new community, because if Sony had hid that he liked Taylor Swift, he wouldn't meet. And he's also a very nice friend. He made us friendship bracelets and stuff as well.
One thing for me to share here is definitely be who we are, be authentic, really show ourselves, because that's how you find your people. And if we're in a growth stage, right, so we're constantly growing, so of course the people that we will meet will slowly change as well. If we're still meeting the same people, then that means your life is pretty much stagnant. I'm only saying this in a very extreme way. You don't meet new people because you are always in the same zone. So what makes you think that you are growing, right? But if you're meeting new people, especially people who are way better than you, and you are meeting people who are actually better than you, that means you are working your way up to be on the same page, same level as those people. It is a good sign that, hey, you're growing, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and now you're expanding your network. I have these posts that I saw on Instagram, and I save it. I don't have the name reference, but credit to whoever wrote this. It's from a book. It says, you need people in your life that are further ahead than you, people that have a bigger vision, people who are more experienced, people that are out of your league. You need to be exposed to new levels so that you can go to new levels. So actually that explains a lot. In order for us to really grow and step up, we need to have a starting point. And that starting point is to accept who we are, to know who we are, to expose about ourselves first, and then we develop on top of that.
I feel like the person you're hurting the most is yourself when you're not authentic. You know, you can hurt other people when you're not authentic as well.
It is also interesting that in our friend group, all of a sudden we all just started to have our own tarot cards. I find that quite funny as well. How Sony in the beginning didn't really seem like he would be someone who would connect with tarot card. For myself too, like even though I am into the whole spiritual realm, but I actually never thought of myself owning a tarot card. Tarot card was never really in my thoughts before, but still for some reason we all just got our own deck. But within our friend group, Emmie, you're the first person who started with the whole tarot reading. You even gave us a reading in the beginning, like sort of like a practice. How do you feel about the whole tarot reading and even using, like crystal? Did they help you in any way?
I think it definitely did in a more of mental clarity, or like answers for myself, or like, asking for a little push from a person, that person being cards. Actually, tarot reading came from one of my curiosity as well, because I got a very accurate, spot on reading. And so I got curious of like, how does it work? And so I went on, buy some tarot cards, apply into a lesson, and then I got into tarot reading. I don't know if this is like real, but I keep thinking to myself that I believe that I am someone who know without a reason why I know. It's almost like if we're speaking about like spiritual way, I would feel like I'm a seer. Sometimes when I read for other people and the cards come up, I don't really exactly read the message of the card from the actual meaning that we're taught, but I feel like those words just come in and it just comes out of me naturally from looking at the cards. It just started growing from there. I just started reading more and more for people, and I feel like I'm helping those people when they're in desperation or when they need answers that they're too afraid to ask. With the crystals, I like them. First, it was just like because it's very beautiful. But then like the more I look into them and the more I understand the meaning of the crystals, of what the energy that they're giving, I keep getting more and more. One of my favorite is labradorite, which is crystal that has certain reflex to them. If you turn it in the right angle, you see colorful reflex. It's believed to be, I buy them first, but then I later on study of what it means. And then it turns out that labradorite is actually the witch's stone, which help with your third eye chakra, would help with you kind of know and sense all the energies, which is like, that's a crazy coincidence, or it's meant to happen. That I really, really drawn to this stone and also what it means. Kind of like surprising to me.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
For me, the things that I take from the relationships that I make in my life and the experiences that I absorb into my life, I apply it perhaps in a different way. So for me, yes, I've ended up having tarot cards as well from the sort of like influences of the people around me. But particularly for me right now, how I've been using tarot cards is that I found out that first of all, tarot cards are so pretty, and the one I bought is very aesthetic, and I'm like, ooh, I love like aesthetic things. Like, who doesn't, right? But then for me, that's just the first like more so consumer psychology purchasing purposes. But on a deeper level, for me, I practice tarot reading in a way that I am a person who likes storytelling. And storytelling is a big part when I create my things in my life as well. And I found out that through tarot reading, I am able to sort of like take thoughts that are in my head that are more conceptual to sort of like regurgitate it out and like puke it out. And then sort of like sorting it out in a more physical, more approachable sense. Even if it's not real, I get to take a moment in my life to make a story out of my life. And I feel like that's the current stage where I'm at with tarot reading, and also why I feel like it is a very fun and very cathartic practice that I've incorporated into my life. And it has brought me a lot of clarity in times that I need them as well. And again, I feel like, to me, what Emmie has brought up about, how some words, when she doesn't read face value for what the cards are talking about, but sometimes she feels like the words just come to her. To me, how, from a non-religious perspective, how I view it is more so that it's related more so into instincts, the concept of instincts. And this is something that I can relate to in my practices of tarot reading, which is, I feel like most of the time we always already have the answers within our heads, but to retrieve those answers, sometimes it takes something. You need to do something in order to retrieve those answers. So again, it's very linked to me, like sort of like a gut feeling. Like I have that a lot of time. Like I said this before in previous episodes, I believe, about how when I have the inkling or the urge to create something, the art, it just comes to me and I just go with it. And that sort of feeling is, I would equivalent that to the same feeling as what Emmie feels in terms of the word just comes to her. So for me, this practice really is about learning to trust your instincts. And that's what I really like about it.
Actually, tarot reading is also really good as a self-reflecting method or tool. The way I do it is sometimes I would ask a question and open the cards, and then I look at myself at the way I interpreted the cards. And I ask myself, why do I interpret the cards this way? Because a lot of people don't read tarot for themselves because they could, lean toward themselves, or try to read the best possible answers, or try to agree with yourself whichever cards that comes up. But I take that as an advantage to kind of understand myself even more of, why did I feel like the card means this? Or why do I feel like the cards is saying this? Am I being biased to myself? Or is this true? Sometimes I would take pictures and ask my friend of I would take picture and ask my friend of how they would interpret the cards if this come up with this question, just so for fun, first of all, and also to kind of self-reflect of, person of different backgrounds, different experiences would interpret the situation this way, but me personally would interpret the situation this way. It's almost like asking for opinions.
For tarot cards, I use it to practice totally like what Sony said. Nowadays I use tarot card mainly to practice my own intuition, and also a way for me to connect with my higher self. And also because I believe so much in energy, I actually have another opinion on how tarot card works. This is solely my own opinion. I could be wrong. But how I see tarot card in relation with the whole energy is, some people believe that, tarot card, it must be something or something miracle that gives us the answer. But I would also like to add on a possibility that maybe it is your own energy that attracts the card that reflects on your current state to come out. So are you the one giving the answer to yourself, or is it the miracle or the unseen person or the card giving you the answer? This is an opening question for me, and there's no need to find or ask for a direct answer, because it is just the way it is. I will never be able to know. Maybe both is true. It doesn't matter. But in the end, we already get the kind of comfort that we want to get through a tool such as tarot card. And for me, I use it to practice my own intuition. And I think with all of these belief, spiritual, crystal, or tarot cards, all of these are just a way for us to reflect on ourselves, to learn about ourselves, to find out we can also use it to find out who we really are in order to become an authentic self, right?
When we were talking about being afraid of presenting our values, that kind of reminds me of a podcast I recently listened to, which is about imposter syndrome. How the psychologist explained imposter syndrome is that it's actually not you. It's about the people that surrounded you, which I feel like very similar to if you are afraid to express yourself and your true values, maybe it's the people around you. And for me, I believe that is really the people around you. So don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to express your value. If expressing your value make you feel embarrassed or shame, maybe remove yourself from those people and those environments. So express yourself, be proud of what you believe in, and you attract the right people for you.
Thank you so much, Emmie, for spending some time in your busy schedules to be with us here and record an episode with us and sharing your insights and your wisdom with everybody. I certainly got goosebumps from hearing about all the things that we've discussed in this episode today. The keywords I take away would be the values and also to achieve authenticity. And I would like to just throw this question out there for all the listeners out there. What are your values? And is there anything that you do in your life that can help you figure out these values that you believe in? And are the people around you right for you? And as always, thank you to all the goobies that's been following us and catching up with all our episodes thus far. We really appreciate the love and support you've shown us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Yay, let's do some spiritual doo-doo now. Or just rap.